Good morning. My name is the Reverend Jennifer Johnson, and it is my honor and my delight to serve as the lead minister here at First Parish in Concord. Welcome to all joining us both in our historic sanctuary and over Zoom on yet another beautiful, dry fall morning. To gather in worship is a sacred act, and your presence among us is a blessing. We are glad and grateful that you are here. First Parish in Concord is a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and love lies at the center of our faith. We covenant to grow spiritually and ethically together as we adapt to a changing world. With humility and reverence, we acknowledge our place in the great web of life. In this congregation, we believe in democracy and affirm that Black lives matter as we embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. We have a few announcements this morning. I'd like to call your attention to the Teal Bulletin, which has the full slate of announcements, and in particular to the Diwali celebration that's happening here in our parish hall at 3:30 this afternoon. All are invited. During coffee hour, you'll notice the beautiful decorations that are already in place. A representative of our governing board is available each week to answer questions, and this morning, today, I believe Kristen Moore is on duty. Here's Kristen. If you need help with anything during the worship service, such as assisted listening devices, play packets for little ones, or directions to the wiggle room or the restrooms, you can see one of the ushers at the back of the sanctuary. Please join us immediately following the service for coffee hour in the parish hall downstairs. Also following the service, another option is our worship sharing circle in the Brooks room, which is down these stairs or elevator and to the left. It is a time to engage in deeper conversation about the service. One last thing this week, this Sunday, as we prepare ourselves for the momentous and anxious week ahead in our national life, I want to remind you to do two things. First, if you haven't already, and if you are of age and eligible, please vote. Second, please breathe. Often, intentionally and mindfully. On election night, if you need to breathe with others, if you need others to remind you to breathe, please join us anytime between 6 p.m. and midnight when the doors to the meeting house will be open, and we will ground ourselves in the love and fellowship of spiritual community. Let's take a deep, centering, nourishing breath together right now as we begin our time of worship.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Amy Friedman. I serve as your Minister of Religious Education, and I'd like to invite the Collins-Toby family to come forward to light our chalice. Our chalice is a flame of truth, freedom, and love. It was adopted by our member congregations, not top-down, but grassroots. And it is a beloved part of our tradition, not only in our starting our worship services, but in our classrooms and our meetings. And it reminds us of the values that we hold together. Thank you. We light this chalice honoring those who came before us, the ancestors. We ask the light of the flame to honor the past, illuminate our present moment, and carry our love and actions forward to the generations yet to come. Let's join in our chalice lighting response, both in your order of service and up on our screens. O flame of our faith, open our hearts and fill our bodies and souls with persistent strength. Enliven our spirits and engage us deeply in this life of ours, this sacred, essential moment now. Our opening hymn this morning is number 103, For All the Saints. Please rise in body or in spirit. That song is often sung in this season, a time when we remember the march of time, those who came before us, those who will follow us. And we come here today with tender hearts, thinking of those in our lives who we may have lost recently, in some distant past, or perhaps someone we never met and yet whose life has shaped our own. This morning, I have brought a photo of my brother, Michael, who died too young and who I carry with me always. I mention who I carry because I know each one of us also carries names of people who have deep connections woven through our own lives. Or perhaps you didn't realize it was an All Souls service, and so you're just now kind of having bubble up those memories within you. Today, our time for all ages is the creation of an All Souls altar. We are going to bring forward photographs of loved ones, or if you did not bring a photograph, you're welcome to write on a piece of paper the name of someone who is in your mind and heart today. knowing that we can never write down all of the names, but whoever comes to mind today is the right person to honor. This is the liminal time. The wheel of the year is always turning, but this moment is halfway between autumn equinox and winter solstice. In earth-centered traditions, it is the spiritual new year. The harvest is coming to an end. Days end earlier. Nights are growing longer. Thankfully, our weather is becoming colder. Nature's descent into sacred dark. This is a reflective time. I invite families to come forward together, and children, if you choose, you may choose to sit up front with me and Dawn, and we'll go up to the Emerson room afterwards. But just know, following this ritual, we will be going up for the time for all ages. So if you'd like to settle up front, you are welcome to do that. And now, let us bring forward those memories and share our love.
So good and right that we should name the ancestors known to us and gather them together, hold them here in our spiritual community as we hold one another. And as Amy suggested in her opening words, it's also right to invoke the ancestors whose names we don't know, the spiritual and national and even other ancestors of other species who made this earth and this world possible for us and for our living, and from whom we have inherited gifts and blessings of love and also challenges. Our reading this morning is from a work called Spirit of Intimacy by the spiritual teacher and author, Sobonfu Some, and Amy's reminding me that we need to send the children on their way, because you might have some other things to do this morning.
So we actually going to similarly explore the same things, just in a different place. And we're all going to go up to the Emerson room. And I saw some new faces here today, so I want to invite you, if you are either in kindergarten all the way up through high school, you are invited to come with us to the Emerson room. We are going to explore themes of death and grief, and we're going to be making prayer boxes. And so if you feel like that's something you would like to do with us this morning, you're welcome to follow us upstairs. If you're brand new and your children are not registered, you can follow your children out and we'll just get your information. And if you're a teenager and you feel moved to stay here and hear this wonderful reading that Jennifer is about to offer, you are welcome to do that as well. This is a time where we need to trust our hearts. Let us join together in song.
I've been told that one of my gifts in ministry is modeling imperfection, so I did that on purpose for you. Our reading is by the author and spiritual teacher Sobonfu Some from Spirit of Intimacy. When we talk about connecting with the spirits of our ancestors, many people assume we refer to our own direct ancestors, but this is difficult. Many of us don't even know our grandparents. But there is such a thing as a pool of ancestors, and it doesn't even have to be a person we can imagine. It can be a tree out there, or the dog or cat at home. Your great-great-grandfather is probably the creek running down over there. So ends our reading. it is again, that reminder to breathe. Let's take another breath. I've shared here before and will share again that I did not grow up with any formalized religious education and even little informal observance for that matter. My parents came from different traditions, Reformed Judaism on my mother's side and Southern Methodism on my father's. We celebrated Easter and Christmas in secularized American fashion, and we gathered around my grandparents' Seder table most years for Passover. That's about the extent of it. Of course, like all kids in my suburban neighborhood, my siblings and I donned store-bought Halloween costumes and collected snack-sized candy bars in orange plastic jack-o'-lanterns. Halloween was all about the costumes and the candy, especially the candy. I have a sweet tooth. I never gave a thought to the religious and spiritual origins of Halloween, to its probable pagan roots and relationship to the Christian observances of All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day. And now here I am, an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister in a congregation that has a cherished tradition of observing All Souls' Day with that moving altar-building ritual of remembrance that we just experienced and enacted together. Throughout my ministerial journey, I have participated in other rituals like this one. When I'm supposed to have something to say, something of religious significance and relevance to doubting Unitarian Universalists. I'm sure I'm not the only UU minister that finds herself scratching her head when it comes to preaching a word that is meaningful and relevant about Christian observances such as All Souls' Day, even as we UUs have largely moved away from many of their theological underpinnings. Now, All Souls' Day is about remembering the dead. What's so challenging about that? Regardless of our beliefs about afterlife, salvation, and damnation, we have a universal human need to remember the dead, the ones who loved us and whom we loved and lost, the ancestors who made a way for us over the generations and from whom we have inherited human culture in all its beauty and brokenness. Yet in the Roman Catholic tradition of the origins of All Souls' Day, it's not only about remembrance, it's also about prayer. It's a day set aside to pray not only for the saints and martyrs in heaven, that comes the day before on All Saints' Day, but rather for the regular folks, for all the faithful departed, the souls who, according to Catholic theology, must undergo ritual cleansing in purgatory before entering heaven, the souls of the people who were faithful but not free from sin in life, and therefore require a little time and a little spiritual cleansing in purgatory before coming to everlasting rest and joy in heaven. The All Souls tradition is about the impact the living can have on the dead in this process by praying for the redemption of the dead, helping to usher them from purgatory to everlasting peace in heaven. This is the purpose of All Souls' Day, to remember and pray for the faithful souls in purgatory, to hasten their entrance into the kingdom of heaven. What do we do with that? While All Souls' Day rituals have found a way into Unitarian Universalist worship in recent times, Our religious lineage links us to the Puritans, and they're the ones who rejected Roman Catholic teachings, including the concept of purgatory. This was pretty central to Puritan theology. The Puritans of New England, our spiritual forebears, the ones who founded this congregation, they were strict Calvinists who believed that souls were either chosen or damned, predestined for hell or heaven. There was no middle ground for spiritual cleansing, no ambiguity, no purgatory. No amount of human prayer could change the ultimate destiny prescribed by God. Breathe. Our Unitarian and Universalist ancestors, the next link in our lineage, right? They were the ones who reacted against this rigid Calvinist theology of predestination. And in particular, it was our Universalist predecessors who outright rejected the notion of predestination and claimed instead that all souls were saved through Christ's sacrifice on the cross. No one was left out. The Universalists professed an all-loving God who would forsake no one. For the Universalists, there was no need for purgatory or hell because all souls had already been saved. Heaven was promised to everyone. Sounds good, right? Except even within the movement of the 19th century American Universalists, some leaders, some Universalist leaders and theologians recognized a problem, a moral conundrum. They were called the Restorationist Universalists, and they actually revived a concept of purgatory in our own tradition. The Restorationists were at odds with those who became known as the ultra-Universalists, the purists who believed that all persons, without exception, would enter immediately into heaven at the moment of death and that no one had to endure any post-mortem punishment for sins. Here I'm quoting from an article in 2019 in Credo magazine by scholar Michael McClellan, and you can understand the appeal of this theology after these decades, centuries of Puritan doctrine and Calvinist theology that really had people living in fear that they were damned, afraid to behave in ways that might reveal that damned nature. McClelland goes on to distinguish the position of the Restorationists, though. He held that many, if not most, the Restorationists held that many, if not most persons are just not ready for heaven at the time of their death. And so a purgatory-like state of suffering and fiery purification is required prior to entering into the unending joy of heaven. The Restorationists were concerned that the ultra-Universalist views of heaven failed to create an imperative in this life, in this world, for people to act ethically. They argued, according to McClelland, that direct entry of all people into heaven would deny any moral nexus, any connection between the present life and the next life, and so would evacuate our earthly decisions of their ethical seriousness. In other words, without the threat of otherworldly punishment, people would behave badly in this world. And you can see why the Restorationists might think that. In short, they were most concerned with the conditions of this world. In the early 19th century, they were especially concerned about the horrors of slavery that were all around them. When they posited their vision of purgatory, their concern was less about making sure sins were punished in the next life and primarily focused on making sure that people were motivated to live good, moral lives on earth. And the Restorationists were the Universalists who went on to become abolitionists, pacifists. Adam Ballou of our area was key among them. He became one of the early leaders of Christian non-resistance who influenced Tolstoy, Gandhi, and King. In this way, we 21st century, free-thinking, truth-seeking, science-embracing, reason-loving UUs can relate to the Restorationist Universalists, even as we may reject their fiery vision of an otherworldly purgatory. We, too, are most concerned with ethical living in this life, in this world, with creating the conditions of heaven on earth, in this realm, the only one we are assured of. There is a lesson of religious significance for Unitarian Universalists in this season of the thinning of the veil between the living and the dead, and in the tradition of praying for salvation of all souls. The lesson is this: to honor the fullness of our ancestors' lives and legacies, the blessings and the transgressions, the virtues and the sins, the good and the evil. It's interesting to me that All Souls aligns with election season in the United States. In this season, we are keenly aware of the gifts of our ancestors, the promise of freedom, equality, and the pursuit of happiness. These are the blessings they bestowed on us. And we are keenly aware of their sins, the racism, sexism, and all forms of oppression woven into the fabric of the democracy they shaped, a democracy that has always been incomplete, has always been fraying, and is now more fragile than ever. We must engage all sides of our ancestors' stories, the hope and the horror, the accomplishments and the unfinished business. If we are to redeem their sins and fulfill their promise, not in an otherworldly heaven, but here on earth, then our prayers must be our actions. Let this All Souls season be an occasion for us to pray for the wisdom to learn from the ambiguity of our ancestors' mortal lives and our own. Let us pray for the gratitude to honor the gifts they bestowed, and for the courage to redeem the sins they committed in their lives by the way we live ours. May it be so.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Paul Langston Daly, your Minister for Social Action. My pronouns are he and they. Each month we we share our collection with organizations that you, members and friends of the congregation, support. In November, we celebrate Sanctuary Boston, nominated by Regina Correo. As we celebrate those who have gone before, we recognize this month the UU students in Boston who have been investing their time, talent, and energy to form what is believed to be the largest campus UU ministry program in Unitarian Universalism. First Parish in Concord recognizes the value in this ministry and supports them by coming together to help fund this ministry into the future. Leona Ripley, a member of Sanctuary Boston, writes, "Since that first incredible night when I entered Sanctuary Boston, we had gone to retreats together, visited the MFA, participated in sanctuary small groups, drank hot chocolate while watching the Christmas tree lighting at the Boston Commons, and we've enjoyed and led countless sanctuary worship gatherings. The Sanctuary Campus Ministry is one of my favorite parts about being a college student in Boston, and I feel so incredibly lucky every day to call my fellow campus ministry students a found family, and Sanctuary Boston a found home. With gratitude, we support this ministry and the next generation of Unitarian Universalists for all we do to care for those within these walls and beyond these walls. We thank you for your generous gifts this morning."
Each Sunday, we set aside time in our worship for what I like to think of as a ritual, a sacrament of empathy, when we bear witness to the most meaningful passages in our life and feel together in joy and sorrow, grief and hope. In this way, we deepen the wellspring of compassion in our hearts for ourselves, one another, and all our human kin in the wider world. This morning, we have not received any written prayer requests to share, yet we know that within each human heart is a trove of experiences and memories, both tender and triumphant, recent and long since past. So it is at this time that we honor those experiences and memories, our shared joy and sorrow, and our shared human need to hold them together in spiritual community. Into this space made sacred by our presence, I invite each and all of you to share the names and concerns that you are holding today, either by typing them into the chat if you're on Zoom, or saying them quietly aloud in the space you are in. We acknowledge and hold in our hearts all the intentions and prayers spoken and unspoken among us. We hold in our hearts all those who have yet to find a place to call their spiritual home. May they find love, belonging, and peace. And let us take this moment to feel, to breathe, and to hold all that we carry in our hearts here and together in sacred silence.
We'll take some time now to chant our litany of remembrance, a tradition we have of chanting the names of those in our community, our loved ones and friends who have been named from the pulpit in the past year. Your response is, "You are not forgotten." Trudy Haney,
you are not forgotten.
Ginny McCoubry,
You are not forgotten.
Donna Smith,
You are not forgotten.
Erica Drazen,
You are not forgotten.
Gertrude Richards Russell,
You are not forgotten.
Lynn Palmer Shadle,
You are not forgotten.
Ruth Webster,
You are not forgotten.
Helena Romarowitz.
You are not forgotten.
Into this space, you may speak the words, any names that are on your heart each time.
Lawrence McCrae.
You are not forgotten.
Saul Solomon.
You are not forgotten.
Eli
You are
Lipcon.
not forgotten.
Ted
You are
Englander.
not forgotten.
Isaac D. Russell.
You are not forgotten.
Debbie Clark.
You are not forgotten.
Peggy
You
Brace.
are not forgotten.
Krista M. Richardson.
You are not forgotten. Maria Cristina Gomez,
you are not forgotten.
Linda Hardeman,
You are not forgotten.
Rhoda Miller,
You are not forgotten.
Sarah Wilford,
You are not forgotten.
Mary Pazares,
You are not forgotten.
Betsy Sloan,
You are not forgotten.
Mary Dominic Coomer,
You are not forgotten. Dwayne Argood,
you are not forgotten,
Janet Louise Jeffries,
you are not forgotten,
Roxanne Labons,
you are not forgotten,
Pamela Marie,
you are not forgotten,
Nancy Gardner York,
you are not forgotten,
Daniel Esterbrook Bede,
you are not forgotten,
Victor
you
Manuel,
are not forgotten,
Jane French,
you are not forgotten. Charles Rex Hubbard,
you are not forgotten.
Mark Bloomberg,
You are not forgotten.
Judy Bowden,
You are not forgotten.
Aramamini Glennon,
You are not forgotten.
Hugh Newton,
You are not forgotten.
Katie Newton,
You are not forgotten.
Rose Rue,
You are not forgotten.
you are not forgotten.
You are not forgotten.
Let us close with words from the Reverend Kathleen McTeague. In the struggles we choose for ourselves, in the ways we move forward in our lives and bring our world forward with us, it is right to remember the names of those who gave us strength in this choice of living. It is right to name the power of hard lives well lived. We share a history with those lives. We belong to the same motion. They too were strengthened by what had gone before. They too were drawn on by the vision of what might come to be. Those who lived before us, who struggled for justice and suffered injustice before us, have not melted into the dust and have not disappeared. They are with us still. Their lives, the lives they lived, they hold us steady. Their words remind us and call us back to ourselves. Their courage and love evoke our own. We, the living, carry them with us. We are their voices, their hands, their hearts. We take them with us and with them choose the deeper path of living. Amen.
I invite you to rise and join me in our final hymn, Let the Life I Lead Speak for Me. The words will appear on the screen, and you'll get the tune as we go. Let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. When I come to the end of this road and I lay down my heavy load, let the life I lead speak for me. Let the love I share, let the love I share speak for me. Let the love I share speak for me. When I come to the end of this road and I lay down my heavy load, let the life I share speak for me. Let the friends I have, let the friends I have speak for me. Let the friends I have speak for me. When I come to the end of this road and I lay down my heavy load, let the friends I have speak for me. Let the work I do, let the work I do speak for me. Let the work I do speak for me. When I come to the end of this road and I lay down my heavy load, let the work I do speak for me. Let the songs I sing, let the songs I sing speak for me. Let the songs I sing speak for me. When I come to the end of this road and I lay down my heavy load, let the songs I sing speak for me. Let the life I lead, let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. When I come to the end of this road and I lay down my heavy load, let the life I lead speak for me.
We will extinguish our chalice with the traditional words of benediction, spoken in unison, given and received. Go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor